Now, Double Game Week 33 is finally here after much preparation, and in today's video we're going to be running through my team selection where I've got three free transfers to use, and I'm going to be looking to activate my bench boost. Now, before we head into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to hit 13,000 subscribers before the end of the season. We are ridiculously close to doing it. I think it's around 35 people now. We need to just hit that subscribe button and we will be there for our end of season goal. So like I said, if you do enjoy any of the content, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, getting your comments in below, and of course, liking the video. As you can see, I am filming this before the Newcastle Crystal Palace game. So at the time of recording, we are on a small red arrow, and I don't really expect that to change too much unless maybe Dan Burn or Jacob Murphy absolutely explodes. But I think with Alexander Isak obviously losing us rank because of his effective ownership being at 218%, we're probably going to be looking maybe at a decrease in rank, or at the least probably a small potential gain from the position we're in. We're not in a bad position though. 15k, I think, you know, FPL Focal tweeted this, where he's kind of just been stuck for the past 5 or 6 game weeks, and we've been in a very kind of similar position, to be honest. You know, we have 1 week where we're a decent green, we get ourselves to 12k, then we're back to like 18. This week we're down a little bit to 15k. We can't really seem to just get ourselves into that top 10k, but I always knew this game week was going to be extremely difficult. I knew a lot of people had chips active, whether that be a free hit, triple captain, bench boost, assistant manager. A lot of people had those chips active, and we just kind of didn't have anything, and we just had to hope that our team did deliver. It's not done too bad, but like I said, there's definitely been some disappointing players in here that have really let us down, to be honest. I'm looking more towards Cole Palmer, who potentially could have been the one that could have salvaged the week, but only 4 points from him so far, so very, very disappointing. However, we do have, of course, 6 players playing tonight, so maybe that could all change, but for right now, it probably is looking more likely that we are going to finish up on a red arrow down to 15k. Looking at how the team is going to be lining up for next week then, this is before I've touched anything with my team, and as you can see, there are some problem players. We do have a lot of players that of course don't have double game weeks. We have an injured Gabriel on the bench as well, which isn't ideal when I am looking to play the bench boost for this game week as well. So yeah, there's quite a few issues within the squad. Cole Palmer, obviously no double, disappointing form. Jacob Murphy, no double. Dan Burn, no double. And like I said, Gabriel. So they're probably going to be the problem areas that we are going to be focusing on in today's video in terms of my transfer targets as well. And I imagine a lot of people probably going to be in a similar position if you went for Cole Palmer, or of course you've got yourself triple Newcastle, or still have left a injured Gabriel and what to do with him. So we're going to talk through my options in today's video and discuss how my team is planning on lining up for game week 33. But before we obviously head into that, let's take a look at the betting data heading into this game week. Of course, make sure you are going over to Rob T FPL's Twitter. Go and give him a cheeky little follow. He posts this stuff every single week for Premier League and Champions League, and it is exceptionally useful, especially for me. I like to use this for the really difficult, close decisions. And as you can see from this week, I'm seeing the Arsenal fixtures at 44%. And I'm really, really interested in kind of acquiring another defender, really getting myself into that Arsenal defence. 44% chance of a clean sheet in both fixtures is looking really, really good. I know how good they've been defensively as well this year with the XG conceded, so I'm really liking the look of that, to be honest. Obviously, West Ham, decent projected numbers. You saw there quickly that we do have Jared Bowen for this week. I do feel like he could be one of those players that does have the potential to go and outscore double game week players as well this week. So I'm happy that I picked him up on the wild card. Had a decent week last week. Hopefully against Southampton he can get something for our bench boost as well. Manchester City's fixtures as well, 1.7 and 2.05, pretty decent from an attacking perspective. A little bit low in terms of the clean sheet numbers, which is obviously putting me off. I was originally potentially looking at going for double Manchester City defence with Ruben Diaz and Gvardiol. However, looking at these numbers, I am a little bit swayed to go more towards the double Arsenal defensive route and maybe look at KDB as a potential option. That's currently the way that I am swinging, just from looking at the betting data, and of course the fact that City might get that extra double in game week 36, of course, if they were to progress to the FA Cup final. But we won't know that till post game week 34, so I have to make the decision now and not rely too much on information later, which is a little bit disappointing. Puts us in a very, very difficult position. But overall, like I said, go and follow Rob T FPL. Some absolutely cracking stuff over on his Twitter page. And yeah, go and give him some love from me as well. So let's head in then to those transfer targets that I was briefly talking about then. Starting off first, it is going to be that big toss-up. And it kind of correlates with the fact that do we want to go double City defence, or do we want to go triple Arsenal defence? Because that is the way that I'm probably going to be looking, right? It is going to be a case of we go KDB and then we go Saliba, Kivior and Raya as our defenders. Or do we go for Saka, who I do think will be a very, very popular captain option for this game week with, of course, Palace and Ipswich. The projected goal numbers as well from the 11-5 data was also looking pretty decent. So do we go down that route? And then do we go the Manchester City route? However, their expected clean sheet numbers were a lot low. They were 31% and 27%. Not as high as Arsenal's both 44%. So in my head, I'm thinking, do I go for the safe route? Do I go for Saka? Do I get myself another City defender? Do I obviously just have that choice to captain Saka? That's the safe route, right? But I'm not 100% convinced on his minutes. Now, Arsenal are playing in the Champions League tonight, and I do feel like if they were to progress, it would make me think, is Saka the right option? Because surely that becomes Arsenal's biggest priority. And you could see him maybe getting benched for the Ipswich game. Even if the game tonight went extra time as well, that would put me off even further. So I do think this decision is probably going to be swayed by tonight's Real Madrid match. What happens with Arsenal? If they go out, I'm probably going to lean more towards Saka. If they go through, I do think I'm probably going to lean more towards KDB. And people might be saying, well, you're playing Pep Roulette. I don't think his minutes are going to be secured. I think he's going to give KDB a lot of minutes towards the back end of this season. He doesn't need him for next year. He's not going to manage his fitness levels or anything like that. He can run this guy into the ground because he's not his problem next season. He's not got to worry about it. So can just play him, let him enjoy the football. And honestly, watching that Palace game at the weekend, it was like KDB of old. It genuinely was. And I really would love to have him in my team one last hurrah, and I think he could be a really good alternative captain in game week 36, of course, if Manchester City were to go and get themselves that double game week. Obviously, I spoke about the defensive route. Do we go, obviously, Kivior and Saliba, or do we go Ruben Diaz and Gvardiol? Now, I'm thinking I might go for the Kivior route because, like we said, we saw the decent projected clean sheet numbers for this week. I then won't need these Arsenal guys a little bit later on. They can just be on the bench or get rotated for teams that have fixtures in 36. But I just really like this going of the Arsenal double defence. I think Kivior is secure within his place within the side as well. He seems to be the preferred centre-back partnership. I know, Ben White's back, Calafiori's back, who could also play centre-back. But it does seem like Arteta's settled to is Kivior and Saliba. Now, whether or not, again, they're going to see some rotation, of course, if Arsenal do progress to the next round of the Champions League, that is a big factor. But usually you don't see too much rotation with centre-back pairings. They usually play a lot of games together. They don't usually swap too much. And I just think for this double game week, going that double Arsenal defence route, or in my case, it's going to be a triple Arsenal defence route, getting KDB in, it just seems like the right play for me right now. Obviously, I'll talk about both options when we get onto the team selection stage, but I genuinely just think that could be the way that I will go with this. Of course, I've got another transfer that is available, and that is going to be used on picking up an Aston Villa midfielder. Now, I haven't decided which one. After some of the quotes from Emery yesterday that did come out around Marcus Rashford, it is confirmed that he is the penalty taker. He really likes him ahead of Watkins. So getting a midfielder, playing out of position as a striker on penalties, seems like a really, really good investment. You know how I feel about penalty takers. You know how I feel that players that are playing out of position. Marcus Rashford ticks both of those boxes. The box that he doesn't tick, though, is consistent and reliable minutes. Now, though, that Villa are out of the Champions League, we might see those minutes be a lot more sturdy. And these games this weekend are going to be imperative for their Champions League qualification for next season. And I think if he is, having Rashford as his main man up front, I think it could be worth the gamble. I genuinely do think it could be worth the gamble. But at the same time, we've got Morgan Rogers, who's consistent, 90-minute man, cheaper option, and has just been stellar all season. It's the risk versus reward, I guess, here, isn't it, really? Because We could go for the safe option that's got good minutes and is a good asset, right? That's Rodgers. Or we could take this gamble, go for Rashford. Yes, his minutes are a risk. That is the gamble. But then there's so much upside with penalties, out of position. Like, you know what I mean? There's so much that could go right, but there is so much that could go very, very quickly wrong for Marcus Rashford. And we could be looking, you know, with fools, with egg on our face when Rodgers is playing consistent 90s and getting decent attacking returns. That is the only thing that, of course, does concern me with picking Rashford. And I think if I'm already going to be potentially taking a gamble on somebody like KDB, I think the more sensible route might just be to go for the steady and safe option of going for Morgan Rodgers. However, if we were to go for the other route and maybe go for Saka, maybe then I can take that risk on Marcus Rashford. That's currently where I'm at with those two as well. Again, still a lot of decisions to be made and probably will be made on the deadline stream. I will be live from 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, so make sure you're getting yourself over to that stream when that does go live. But like I said, still a lot that is TBC for right now. Finishing up, actually it's not even finishing up, we've got 2 sections to go, ignore me. Next up is going to be looking at captaincy for this week. So as you can see on screen right now, I've got the Fantasy Football Hub predicted points ahead of double game week 33, and Marmoush is top of that list. Very, very interesting to see, and I do feel like he will be a very, very popular captaincy option. I think it's probably going to be a toss-up between him or Saka, but of course with Saka's more reduced minutes in Premier League games over the past few weeks, I think a lot more people will probably be tempted to go for the Marmoush option. I do think that is probably where my captaincy will also lie as well. I think some of these predicted points for the players with this double game week are a little bit skewed. Martinelli, I mean, I've looked at him. We looked at him in the AI free hit video yesterday. Yeah, I'm genuinely not sure how he's made it in here, to be honest, because yeah, six games, 1 attacking return, 6 goals, 4 assists this season. Nothing exceptional. So I'm unsure where the Fantasy Football Hub model has kind of got this from. Maybe it's because he's secure in minutes. I don't know. But for me personally, yeah, I really don't get that one. But in terms of captaincy, it is probably going to be for me between Marmoush and Saka. And I think with Saka being a little bit dicey at the moment in terms of his minutes, I probably would just go for Marmoush. Finishing up before we head into the team selection then. Let's take a look at the AM points. I know a lot of us still have that AM chip active. I think if you went for Glasner in double game week 32, I probably would stick with him again. I think, you know, you're getting a chance of table bonus with Arsenal. You don't know what condition Arsenal are going to be in post-Champions League. They might be on an absolute high, and that is definitely something where you can take advantage of them. And Bournemouth have been very, very hit and miss over the past few weeks, and it does seem like one of those fixtures where you potentially could get something out of that game as well for Oliver Glasner. So I think if you went for him in double game week 32, I probably would look to just stick with him. However, of course, if you are coming from a different manager in game week 32, I think the top pick probably is going to be Mikel Arteta. Decent chance with the Ipswich and Palace games as well, as you can see. Top of the AM points predicted list. I think that probably is going to be the play. However, if you are maybe a little bit further back in rank and you are thinking about potentially chasing some of that juicy table bonus, maybe it could be somebody like Glasner that could offer that opportunity to take a little bit of a gamble, take a little bit of a risk, because I do feel with this chip, going that way with the table bonus is one of the best ways to gain some points, and that definitely could be something that could be very, very fruitful for Glasner owners. I think if you already got him though, like I said, keep him. If you are looking to switch, it probably is going to be Glasner or Mikel Arteta. Go for the safe option of Mikel if you're probably in a decent position with rank. But if you're looking to maybe jump up the ranks, Glasner probably is going to be your man. Right, wasting no time, let's dive into the team selection ahead of double game week 33 then. Starting off first with our goalkeepers and defenders. As you can see for the goalkeeper pairing for this game week, we have got David Raya and we have got Areola coming in as our bench boost goalkeeper. Of course, we spoke about Arsenal's defensive numbers this season and of course the clean sheet data from Rob T FPL with a 44% chance for both of their fixtures there. Of course as well we've got Areola, decent percentage chance as well for West Ham to keep a clean sheet at home against Southampton. So hopefully we can get both goalkeepers returning over the course of this double game week. Moving into the back line then, We have gone for the double Arsenal defensive route here. William Saliba, I do feel, is probably going to be a very popular pick heading into this double game week. Probably going to be looking around 30 to 40% owned for him. And I think his effective ownership will be really, really high and really through the roof, to be honest. But the big reason, like I said, that I've gone for this Arsenal triple up is the fact that the defensive numbers and the ownership numbers for the Arsenal defence is going to be high heading into this game week. You imagine most people are probably going to have one defender. Some will have two. But I think if Arsenal keep clean sheets across both of these games, and I've got all three defenders doing that, I think that could be a great route to points. Of course, we saw with the Rob T FPL data, we're playing the statistical route here. They've got a 44% chance of keeping a clean sheet in these fixtures. I think it could have massive upside for us, because I think if you've just got the one Arsenal defender, you're probably, effective ownership-wise, probably looking at like a 0% gain, really, realistically, because of all the other options that people have got within that backline, Timber, Raya, Saliba, Kivior. I think going double or triple is probably going to be the route if you are looking to get something out of the Arsenal defence this week. We've obviously gone for the triple. It could pay us massively. It could leave us with egg all over our face, but it is the route we're going for, and I'm going to stick with it. Munoz is in here. If you've seen his heat map that was floating around on Twitter, it's unbelievable for a defender. It would look great for a midfielder or a striker, never mind a defender. Of course, the Palace fixture, the Bournemouth fixture probably is the more favourable out of the two, but with Munoz, he's one of those guys where if you just watch him play, he is absolutely unbelievable. I can't get into my head sometimes the positions that this guy gets himself into. Again, He's my second favourite, probably actually, forget it. He's my favourite Palace asset right now in the game. And of course, there is still that potential that Palace could get themselves another double in game week 36. Gvardiol completes the lineup. Of course, the only disappointing thing about him at the moment is the fact that he's playing centre-back rather than left-back. And I think with O'Reilly having two decent games, obviously scoring in the Crystal Palace game as well, probably is going to be more likely that Gvardiol is going to be playing at centre-back. The only advantage that we are going to get out of that is the fact that he is only realistically competing with Ruben Diaz for that clean sheet bonus points. So if Ruben Diaz picks up a yellow or does some kind of silly tackles or gives the ball away too much, then we could be looking at a nice free easy bonus points. We did see that a few game weeks ago as well. And with Pep, in some of the game weeks that they've been playing recently, they've actually only had two defenders, Diaz and Gvardiol, within there. So if City were to win a game, say 1-0, and there was, bonus points for the defenders, you would imagine that either Gvardiol or Diaz are probably going to walk away with 3 points, because the left back and right back are classified as midfielders within the game, so wouldn't even contribute towards that list, if you understand where I'm coming from. So there's a high percentage chance there that maybe him not playing left back is a blessing in disguise, but I think it's one of those where it's kind of more based on bonus points, and I don't think most people are probably going to see that with their sides. The final defender is going to be Ezri Konsa on the bench. Could have got himself a brace last night in Aston Villa's Champions League game. I think he's one of the first names on Unai Emery's team sheet as well. Now they're out of the Champions League, I expect him starting both these important clashes for Aston Villa. Let's head on then into the midfield. First up, we've got Sarr. I actually still prefer him over Eze. I think Eze's injury problems will come to kind of fruition at some point. Whether that will be tonight, whether that will be across this double game week, it does concern me a little bit with, of course, him kind of leaving the game early against Manchester City. I just don't see what Eze does that warrants him getting the extra mil in terms of value. So I'm very happy to have Sarr. He could have got himself a hatful of goals at the weekend against Manchester City. So hopefully he can deliver the goods in game week 33. We've gone with Morgan Rogers. I think with, of course, us taking the gamble on the triple Arsenal defence and going for KDB, I think it's a little bit more sensible for me to go for Rogers, whose minutes have been very, very secure and has been, again, one of the best players for Aston Villa this season. Salah's in there, and we saw on the predicted points list that he's exceptionally high up, despite, not having a double game week. He's just got Leicester, and in most weeks we'd be looking at him in terms of captaincy anyway. So it's just kind of one of those where, yes, he's not got a double game week, but I'm not going to take him out. It's a great fixture, and for most points that he will score in this game week, I think he'll probably, outscore a lot of double game week players. I genuinely do. That is where I'm at with Mohamed Salah right now. I genuinely think he could outscore some of the double game week players. Then, like I said, it is that gamble on KDB that we've gone for. It is going to be his final few games for Manchester City. I think Pep is going to play them. There is, of course, the opportunity that Manchester City do get themselves a double-double. And it is also looking unlikely that Phil Foden is kind of within favour to kind of steal KDB's position at the moment. There was a quote that came out that Manchester City are very willing to pay the £150 million release clause in Florian Wirtz's contract, as they believe he is the natural progression to KDB rather than somebody like Phil Foden. Since they've made this switch tactically to this new formation as well, they have been really good. They've been flourishing under it, and KDB has been a part of that. Massively passed the eye test, and he just kind of rolled back the years against Crystal Palace. So hopefully in this double game week, he can deliver the goods. We finally finish up with Jared Bowen. Like I said, I think, again, he could be one of those players that does actually outscore double game week players with, of course, a very nice fixture against Southampton. We know he's a 90-minute man. We know he's a talisman, and I absolutely love that. And he's also playing up front at the moment and has looked really good over the past few weeks. Arguably West Ham's best player, and that statement doesn't even fit just to this season. Probably over the past 3 or 4 seasons, he has been their star man, hasn't he, really? Let's finish up then. Let's head into the line at the attacking lineup. Marmoush is going to lead the line with the armband as well. I just think with him being top of the predicted points, of course, as not having Bukayo Saka, I'm still a little bit sceptical about KDB's minutes. I've gone with him as my captain for this game week. Isak's in there. I think even just it being just a single game week for him, he definitely could still be one of those players that also could have a pretty decent game week against Aston Villa. Big match for both of those clubs as well, with, of course, UCL on the line. I've got Mateta Vice there. I don't think that'll probably be the way that we'll line up. It'll probably be either maybe like a Saliba, a KDB that will take that Vice armband, to be honest. But Mateta's in there. He's back within the Palace lineup again. However, if he does see reduced minutes yet again, that could be the big concern heading into this double game week. That was my team selection. Of course, if you did enjoy today's video, let me know in the comments. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in the comments, as we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in double game week 33.